What is up world, Meta Beeps here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and as usual, it is so good to see you guys. In this week's vlog, we are going fishing, and then after that, we're going to be talking about why I am finally leaving the Sony family and jumping on that Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. But before we do, roll that intro, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace!
So it's gone.
And that is that. We ended the fishing trip with 0 fish. It was just not our day. We saw so many fishes jumping out of the water, but none of them were biting on our hooks or our lures. Everything we were trying to do just didn't seem to want to work, but it was a really awesome day. It wasn't too hot out on the boat. It was just a really good time hanging out with my brother and my nephew and also my cousin as well. So like I said, I wanted to talk to you guys very briefly as to why I'm leaving Sony and jumping on that Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. The time is finally here. It's been 5 years since I've had my Sony a7S, and I think it's time to finally put it to rest for at least my narrative and non-narrative commercial cinematography work. So back in 2014, when this video right here surfaced, Philip Bloom made this video and showcased what the Sony a7S was all about. And if you heard anything about it at the time, it was one of the only cameras that could do 4K externally and had this kind of low light capability. So those were the two absolute factors why I bought and invested in that camera back in 2014. I paid about $2,500 for this camera, and I was so excited. I continued to watch that video over and over again. Low light footage like that was just unheard of at the time, and the ability to record at 4K was definitely unheard of as well. So I had to spend all of my money and make that investment. And so fast forward 5 years later, and about 25 to 30 short films, music videos, non-narrative projects that I have worked on and edited myself, it's finally time to move on to bigger and better things, such as the 6K Blackmagic camera. So I'm sure if you're interested in this camera, you've probably done some research and have seen as many videos as I have on the internet all about this camera, and I am really excited about it. I really don't have too many negatives about it. There are a lot of people that are complaining about it, and I am here to tell you guys that the Blackmagic 6K camera is one to not miss out on. So here are some pros, and then we'll talk about some of the cons as well. All right, so first off, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K is being sold for $2,500, which, if you ask me, that is an absolute steal, and I'm sure a lot of other creators and cinematographers would agree, because when I bought the Sony a7S, literally the same price. So to me, that is a fair trade, and I totally look forward to throwing my money into Blackmagic's pocket. That was weird. So much like the Sony a7S at the time, I am really interested in the Blackmagic 6K camera because it shoots 6K internally. It also records in a RAW format. Granted, it may be Blackmagic's RAW format, it is still incredibly flexible, which is why I am so excited about this camera. And it's funny to think 5 years ago, the thing that interested me in getting the Sony a7S, which is the camera that I'm using here, was the 4K capability and also that low light capability. So it's interesting to me how I am still interested in resolution today, but no longer am I interested in low light capability, because I, as a cinematographer, have learned to light things. I've spent 5 years lighting my own projects, and I think I've learned a lot more than what I knew 5 years ago about lighting. I'm really excited that the Blackmagic 6K shoots at 422 color space and also is 10-bit, which is pretty incredible because this Sony only shoots at 8-bit at 420 color space. So the ability to have way more flexibility in post with color grading. I really look forward to, and also the color science of the Blackmagic is so much better, and I'm really excited to get that much more of a cinematic image just off of the colors alone, because to me my cinematography is lacking that color, is lacking that dynamic range that the Blackmagic 6K is capable of doing. The Blackmagic 6K has 13 stops of dynamic range, and again, keep in mind we are shooting in a RAW format, so you have a lot of latitude with your colors to be able to hold and conserve your highlights while also saving what is in your shadows. So to be able to do both of those things is a really huge thing for me, so I'm really excited to have that type of dynamic range. Now when we compare the HFR, or the high frame rate capability, between the Sony and the Blackmagic 6K, we can see that there is a huge difference. With the Sony a7S, I'm only able to get 60 frames per second at 1080p, not even 4K. And if we take a look at the Blackmagic 6K, we can see that we have so many different flavors and styles of slow motion that I will be able to film in, so I'm really excited to have way more flexibility in the HFR department. So again, the things that really excite me about the Blackmagic 6K is the fact that you can shoot 6K 422 at 10-bit. Super excited about that, and the ability to shoot RAW. Now there are a lot of people that are complaining that you can only shoot RAW in 6K, but if you ask me, I think that is a great idea, and as a cinematographer, I think you should be studying color and understand how to color grade your footage. So for me, I look at it as an opportunity to get better at color grading and also understanding the colors that your camera can capture. Now another thing that I'm really excited about the Blackmagic 6K is that 5-inch touchscreen on the back of the camera. I do hear that it is not that bright under direct sunlight, but nonetheless I'm excited for it. The menus are really confusing, and two, the monitor that you have on your Sony cameras is really tiny. Alright, so you've heard nothing but the great things and the good things and the pros of the Blackmagic 6K camera. Let's talk about some of the cons of this camera, which actually in my eyes they're not cons at all. They're more like continued problems that I've dealt with my Sony a7S, so I feel like I'm pretty prepared for the cons of this camera. So let's run through it really quickly. So one disappointing thing about the Blackmagic 6K is the fact that it lacks a B&C output. If you've ever used a professional cinema camera, you already know that a HDMI output is not the standard, it's not professional grade. Again, if you're on set and you're working with a professional cinema camera, all of those cameras are gonna have a B&C out so that you can use an external monitor. So I wish that Blackmagic would have included a B&C output instead of an HDMI output. Just saying. Another problem that I'm hearing about the Blackmagic 6K is that the batteries do not last very long at all. But let me show you what I've been using on my Sony a7S. For those of you who have used that camera, you understand that the batteries for this camera are really terrible as well. So the fact that I'm going to have to deal with the same issues is not really an issue to me, because I figured out a way to bypass those small batteries, and it's just by getting a power bank. So for me, I'm totally used to using a camera with really terrible battery life. Just get a power bank, you'll be just fine. All right, so another problem that the world and the internet is having with this Blackmagic camera is the fact that it does not have IBIS, in-body stabilization. Now again, for me, I'm coming from the Sony a7S, which has no IBIS. It was made before that technology was even a thing. So for me, not having IBIS in the Blackmagic really is not a big issue to me. And if you think about it, all of the professional grade cameras like the ARRI cameras or the RED cameras, they do not have IBIS as well. They're cinema cameras for a reason, and maybe one day in the future they will have IBIS, but as of right now those cameras do not have IBIS. So for me, it's not really a deal breaker. I know there are so many content creators out there and cinematographers out there that really pride themselves on using IBIS, but just get a tripod, just get a gimbal or a Dana dolly, and you will have steady shots. One aspect about cinematography is all about controlled movements. So if you're a cinematographer, you know that, and I'm sure you're probably not complaining about IBIS as well. All you YouTubers out there, just enough. I'm tired of it. And last but not least, the Blackmagic 6K only has a Super 35 sensor. Now again, I'm coming from the Sony a7S, which is a full frame camera. The sensor is much bigger than the Super 35 camera that you're gonna find in that Blackmagic camera. But one great thing about the Sony a7S is that you have the ability to use it in full frame mode or Super 35 mode. So for me, I've been used to switching back and forth with having a full frame camera and also having a Super 35 camera. So it's really not that much of a difference for me. And really, if we want to complain about sensor sizes, which trust me, I was one of those people probably a few months ago, the Arri Alexa Mini only has a CMOS sensor, which is the same size as a Super 35 sensor. If you've seen any movie that was shot with that camera, I guarantee you it still looks very cinematic. You can't tell me that some of the scenes on Revenant, which were shot on the Arri Alexa Mini, you can't tell me that those images are not cinematic just because of the sensor size. So cinematographers that are complaining about the Blackmagic not being a full frame camera, I think it's time to get over it. Just get wider lenses, get more creative with your cinematography and how you can make it that much more cinematic with a smaller sensor. All right, so that wraps up why I am jumping ship from the Sony team onto the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. That's a lot to say, and I feel like I've said that way too many times this video. So I apologize for that, but I'm really excited for this brand new camera. I haven't been this excited for a camera since the Sony a7S. There's been a lot of cameras that have come out since then, but none of those cameras have got me more excited than the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. So if you guys agree with me or disagree with me as to why I am leaving Sony for the new Blackmagic 6K camera, let me know in the comments down below. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about the brand new 6K camera and also what you have to say about leaving the Sony a7S. If you guys enjoyed this week's video, you know what to do. Go ahead and do a super jump on that like button down below and also get subscribed to the YouTube channel because every Wednesday is a brand new vlog. And if you guys are interested in hearing more talk about cameras, cinematography, let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy and willing to talk about cinematography. Again, I'm IBIS cinematographer and I will see you guys in 7 days. Peace.